Hi, good afternoon. I'm here with Charmaine January. I'm Faye Shragi, and we're celebrating the birth of Baha'u'llah in 2021 at the Baha'i Center in Mowbray. I'm going to ask Charmaine some questions just to help us understand today's festivities and a little bit more about the faith. Charmaine, tell us where and how did the Baha'i faith start?
Thanks, Faye. The Baha'i faith is 178 years old, and it started in Iran, in Persia, in 1817. Baha'u'llah was the founder of the Baha'i faith, had a predecessor called the Bab, and today we are celebrating the twin holy days, the birth of the Bab and the birth of Baha'u'llah. And the Baha'i faith has since spread all around the world.
Thank you very much. Just a little bit, tell us a little bit more about the significance of the festivities of today.
Yes, quite significant, because the twin festivals, it has never been arranged this way before, that the two holy days fall successively one day after the other. Prior to this, using the solar calendar, there used to be an October celebration and a November celebration. But with the introduction of the Baha'i calendar, we're now using the lunar system, and it so happens that the two festivals fall one day after the other, which makes it very significant because the Bab and Baha'u'llah are twin manifestations. In fact, the Baha'u'llah was a follower of the Baha'i religion before he's established an independent faith. So for Baha'is all around the world and the community of interest, this is a very significant period.
Okay, thank you. So today we're celebrating Baha'u'llah's birth. Tell us a little bit more about the Bab and how, for people who are not Baha'is who don't understand, how the Bab and Baha'u'llah and the relationship between the two.
Yes, sure. As people know, throughout history, religion has always been following a path of progressive revelation, which meant that since the time of Abraham, there was a covenant that God had made with humanity, that they would never be left without guidance. And so when one examines history, you will see that there has been the successive flow of divine revelation in a progressive manner. In other words, according to the spiritual capacity of people. So you would have, we all know of the great divine teachers, these sanctified beings, His Holiness Jesus, Muhammad, Moses being some of them. And today Baha'is believe that the twin manifestations, the Bab and Baha'u'llah, have brought about this revelation, the Baha'i revelation. So together they form one revelation, although it's two separate revelations. It's one new day as we refer to it. And that new day is the ushering in of the oneness of humanity.
Okay. Thank you very much. You've explained it beautifully. Thank you.
Thanks,
and hope we have a lovely celebration.
Yes,
today.
you too. Enjoy the celebration.
Thank you. We're back with Mike Yogo, and I'm very interested to hear about his story about how he became a Baha'i and his religious background. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about your experience in the Baha'i faith and how you became a Baha'i.
Well, I was born in a Roman Catholic family in the Republic of Congo, Congo Brazzaville. And as a child, I was introduced to children classes by my cousins and one of my uncles. So by going to children classes, over time, my parents became Baha'i.
Wow.
And so I grew up, I was not born in the Baha'i family, but I grew up in the Baha'i faith. And as I became a teenager, I think I declared when I just turned 15. But according to my own account, I did not become a Baha'i until I was in my 20s. That's when I really realized the importance of being a Baha'i and what it really means to be a Baha'i. So, yeah.
Thank you. And what does that mean? I mean, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. What does that mean for you?
To me, being a Baha'i means serving humanity and, serving God by serving humanity. Doing your best to become a better person every day and making sure that the world benefits from what you're doing, whatever it is. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Mike, I know a lot of what you're doing in the communities, but maybe you can tell our audience what you do.
So right now I'm mostly involved in the Junior Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program that caters to youth aged between 12 and 15. I am an animator, so I have a junior youth group. And I also help as a resource person for the program. So I assist with training of new animators when we have trainings. I accompany other animators in the cluster, in the Cape Town cluster. And I update statistics when there are new statistics that need to be updated and all of that. And I work closely with the Institute Board.
Okay. Thank you. So what exactly are you doing in these junior youth classes? What happens in these classes? When you get there, what happens in these classes? What do you teach them?
Well, being an animator is different from being a teacher. You are a friend, an older friend, who guide conversations about certain topics. So the junior program is divided into certain activities. You have the study of text, that is one of those activities. You have the art activities. You have the physical activities. So because they are youth, they want to expend their energies, so you help them with finding activities that will help them do so within a certain framework. And you have service projects in which they go out and find areas in which they can help their communities. So these are what junior youth do. So that's basically what happens in junior youth groups.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds very exciting for you as well. Sounds like you enjoy the junior youth classes or the junior youth journey, shall I say.
It's a mutual learning experience. As much as the junior youth benefit from the experience of being with other junior youth group, discussing things like divine confirmation, topics like learning about excellence, or how to use numbers to express the concept of justice. It is also a learning for the animator, because a lot of these concepts often are discussed in a very abstract way. But being in a junior youth group really makes them more practical. Being able to recognize that, I've done this thing, I've put this much effort in it, and I've had this result, and this is what divine confirmation looks like. And having that practical viewpoint is very important for the junior youth and for the animator.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's very, very interesting talking to you. Thank
Pleasure.
you.
So welcome to each and all on behalf of the local Spiritual Assembly of Cape Town to this, the second of the Twin Holy Days. Yesterday, many of us would have enjoyed the first of the Twin Holy Days, which was the celebration of the birth of the Bab. Today, we are celebrating the birth of Baha'u'llah. So welcome again to those of us who are present and those of us enjoying the program via live stream. So the question for most of us would be, what is the significance of these Twin Holy Days? And why do we have the bounty of celebrating them successively on the 6th and the 7th of November? So just to say that with the Baha'i calendar, we now introduce what we call the Baha'i calendar. The Baha'i calendar functions on the lunar months in terms of the time frames. In prior years, when we celebrated these anniversaries, we did it in October and November. So the significance of these two holy days is that we could have one successive celebration running over 2 days. In reality, the message of the Bab and the message of Baha'u'llah ushers in a new day collectively. Hence, we refer to them as the twin manifestations. The significance of the manifestation, I'm sure, is known to all of us. They are divine beings, they are exalted beings and sanctified beings. They are the representatives of God on earth. And so, through the ages, humanity has never been left without guidance, and that is the promise that God has made through Abram. So we had the bounties of many of these exalted teachers that have really raised the standard of human conduct, human intellect, human wisdom, and human understanding. So when we refer to them, we refer to His Holiness Jesus Christ, His Holiness Muhammad, Moses, Krishna, and today we refer to the Bab and Baha'u'llah as the promised ones who are fulfilling an age whereby God is bringing humanity into one human family. Now, who is Baha'u'llah himself as a person? His name was Mirza Hussain Ali, my apologies. He was born on the 12th November in 1817 in Tehran, which is the capital city of the Persian Empire at the time. His father, Mirza Bazig, was a very distinguished nobleman and held a high office in the court of the king. He loved Baha'u'llah dearly, and from an early age, Baha'u'llah distinguished himself through his intellect, his wisdom, but moreover, he became a source of new knowledge for people in Persia. And it is not surprising that by the age of 14, he had distinguished himself and became well known in the court of the king. And for this reason, at the early age of 22, when his father had passed, he was asked by the Shah to take over his father's noble position. But as we all know, as history has taught us, that many of these divine messengers come with a much more sublime purpose. And Baha'u'llah would spend all his time caring for the poor, caring for the sick, and defending the oppressed. And that was his divine mission, and that is what he dedicated his entire life to. And that is why he also willingly and joyfully accepted many trials and tribulations, imprisonment, and banishment. He taught that the earth is but one country and mankind its citizens. He taught that one is indeed a man who today dedicateth himself to the service of the entire human race. And he taught that there can be no doubt whatever that the peoples of the world, of whatever race or religion, derive their inspiration from one heavenly source and are the subjects of one God. And that encapsulates the purpose of the coming of Baha'u'llah. We have a wonderful program today. So those were just your welcome and your opening remarks. And just for us to go through the program, we'll enjoy some beautiful prayers in different languages, inspired by the pen of Baha'u'llah, which has a very special creative energy when one listens to it. It has the power to transform the soul, as we know. We'll have some beautiful, enjoy and immerse ourselves in his writings and his teachings. And no doubt these will inspire new thoughts, new aspirations, and new commitments on our path to bring into reality these noble teachings, and that we become recreated through them, no doubt. We'll have some performances by the children, some beautiful stories, and more music, as I see it, and also some beautiful poetry. So enjoy the program, and I know the readers know who they are, so I'll allow them to proceed. Thank you.
Dit is die dag waarin Gods mees voortreffelike gunste oor die mense uitgestort is. Die dag waarin alle geskape dinge van sy almagtigste genade deurdring is. Dit is die plig van al die volkere van die wêreld om hulle geskille te besleg en in volkomme eenheid en vrede onder die skaduwee van die boom van sy sorg en goedertierenheid te bly. Dit betaam hulle om vas te kleef aan wat ook al in hierdie dag tot die opstaan en die bevordering van hulle belange sal strek. Gelukkig is diegene wat die allerglorieryke pen geroer het om te gedenk. En geseënd is daardie mense wie se name ons, kragtens ons ondeurgrondelike bevel, verkies het om te versteek. Smeek die eenware God om te vergun dat alle mense genadiglik bygestaan mag word, om te vervul wat aanneemlik in ons oë is. Weldra sal die hedendaagse orde opgerol en 'n nuwe in sy plek uitgesprei word. Voorwaar, die Here spreek die waarheid en is die kenner van ongesiene dinge.
This is the day in which God's most excellent favors have been poured out upon men, the day in which his most mighty grace hath been infused into all created things. It is incumbent upon all the peoples of the world to reconcile their differences, and with perfect unity and peace, abide beneath the shadow of the tree of his care and loving kindness. It behoveth them to cleave to whatsoever will in this day be conducive to the exaltation of their stations and to the promotion of their best interests.
He is God, O concourse of the lovers of God. By the righteousness of the Almighty, this verily is a night, the like of which hath never been manifested in the world of creation. Truly, this bounty is from God, the all-powerful, the beneficent. On this night, the Spirit spoke with a voice that threw into commotion the realities of men. Rejoice, O concourse on high, in the inmost essence of paradise. Thereupon God cried out from behind the holy veil of divine bestowals. This truly is a night during which the reality of the All-Merciful hath been born, and the meaning of every eternal decree hath been divulged by the pen of the All-Glorious. Therefore rejoice and exult, all people of the Baha'i. During this night, the nightingale lifted up its voice upon the board and branches, proclaiming, "Rejoice, O denizen of paradise." Say, this night the veils of glory concealing the light of certitude were rent in twain and the door of heaven chanted and sang in the midmost heart of paradise. Therefore rejoice, O temples of holiness, dwelling in the city of time. On this night, God revealed his light through every exalted name. Moreover, he hath been established upon every pure and radiant heart. So rejoice, O ye people of the Baha'i. During this night, the oceans of forgiveness have surged and the breezes of divine bestowals were wafted. Therefore rejoice with exceeding gladness, O companions of the All-Merciful. On this night, all the sins of mankind have been forgiven. This is a joyous message unto all created things. Say, this verily is a night during which the preordained measure of bounty and grace hath been decreed in the scrolls of celestial glory and certitude, so that sorrow may be dispelled from all created things forevermore. Therefore rejoice in thy heart, O he who hath entered the realms of being and creation. At this the herald of the Spirit crieth out in the midmost heart of eternity, the center of transcendent glory and sublimity. This is by the grace of God, the omnipotent, the beneficent. By God, the hand of power endowed with ascendant sovereignty hath opened the mask-scented seal. Verily this bounty is from God, the exalted, the beneficent. Through the beauty of the all-glorious, the hand of the divine Joseph hath borne round the cup of pomegranate wine. Verily this bounty is from God, the exalted, the beneficent. Therefore, people of the world, hasten and partake of this sacerdotal of everlasting life. Verily this bounty is from God, the exalted, the beneficent.
Say, O concourse of the lovers of God, the unveiled and naked beauty of the beloved that shone forth. Verily, this bounty is from God and exalted, the beneficent. O concourse of their loved ones, the beauty of the best beloved is the rising above the horizon of holiness. Therefore, bestir yourselves and arise. O people of the Baha'i, verily, this bounty is from God, the exalted, the beneficent. The testimony and the proof hath appeared, for the resurrection hath come to pass through God's manifestation of his own self, the Ancient of Days. Verily, this bounty is from God, the exalted, the beneficent. The ages have persisted, the cycles have repeated, and the lights have rejoiced, for God hath shed the splendor of his effulgent glory from the branches of every tree. Verily, this bounty is from God, the exalted, the beneficent. Bestir thyselves, O chosen ones of God, for the spirits have emerged, the divine winds have been diffused, the likeness of God had been torn asunder, and the tongues of eternity have sung upon the boughs of every tree. Verily, this bounty is from God, the exalted, the beneficent. By God, the veils have been rent asunder, the dense coverings have been consumed by fire, the abstruse allusions have been unveiled, and the subtle signs have been unraveled by him who is endowed with power and omnipotence. Verily, this bounty is from God, the exalted, the beneficent. Rejoice and silently consult the secret and hidden symbol, lest your fools learn of that which ye have quaffed from this wine of rapturous joy. Verily, this bounty is from God, the exalted, the beneficent. O people of the Baha'i, I say by God, the favor of God is fulfilled, his mercy perfected, and the light of the divine countenance is shone forth with exaltation and rapture. Verily, this bounty is from God, the exalted, the beneficent. Drink ye, all concourse of people and assemblage of God's loved ones, from this effulgent and radiant salsabil. Verily, this bounty is from God, the exalted, the beneficent.
when hatred and animosity, fighting, slaughtering, and great coldness of heart were governing this world, and darkness had overcome the nations, Baha'u'llah, like a bright star, rose from the horizon of Persia and shone with the great light of guidance, giving heavenly radiance and establishing the new teaching. He is the most holy, the most exalted, the most great. The birthday festival is come, and he who is the beauty of God, the all-powerful, the all-compelling, the all-loving, hath ascended his throne. Well is it with the one who in this day hath attained his presence, and towards whom the gaze of God, the help in peril, the self-subsisting, hath been directed. Say, we have celebrated this festival in the most great prison, at a time when the kings of the earth have risen against us. Yet the ascendancy of the oppressor can never frustrate us, nor can the hosts of the world dismay us. And to this doth the All-Merciful bear witness in this most august station.
Say, should the quintessence of assurance be dismayed before the clamour of the peoples of the world? Nay, by his beauty which sheddeth its radiance upon all that hath been and all that shall be. This, verily, is the majesty of the Lord that hath encompassed the entire creation, and this is his transcendent power that hath pervaded all them, and sea and all that is seen. Take fast hold of the cord of his sovereign might, and make mention of your Lord, the unconstrained, at this dawntide whose light hath laid bare every hidden secret. Thus hath the tongue of the Ancient of Days spoken on this day, wherein the choice wine hath been unsealed. Take heed, lest the vain imaginings of them that have disbelieved in God perturb you, or their idle fancies deter you from this outstretched path. O people of Baha, soar upon the wings of detachment into the atmosphere of the love of your Lord, the All-Merciful. Arise then to render him victorious, as bidden in the preserved tablet. Beware lest ye contend with any of my servants. Bestow upon them the sweet savours of God and his holy utterances, for through their potency all men will be enabled to turn unto him. They that remain heedless of God in this day are in truth lost in the drunkenness of their desires and perceive it not. Well is it with the one who, with lowliness and humility, hath set his face towards the dayspring of the verses of his Lord. It behoveth you to arise and acquaint the people with that which hath been sent down in the book of their Lord, the Almighty, the Unconstrained. Say, fear ye God, and pay no heed to the vain imaginings of them that walk in the ways of doubt and iniquity. Turn ye with radiant hearts towards the throne of your Lord, the possessor of all names. He verily shall aid you through the power of truth. No God is there but him, the Almighty, the most bountiful. Would ye hasten towards a mere pond, while the most great ocean is stretched out before your eyes? Turn ye wholly unto it, and follow not in the footsteps of every faithless deceiver. Thus doth the bird of eternity warble upon the branches of our divine lote tree. By God, a single one of its melodies sufficeth to enrapture the concourse on high, and beyond them the dwellers of the cities of names, and beyond them those who circle around his throne at morn and eventide. Thus have the showers of utterance rained down from the heaven of the will of your Lord, the All-Merciful. Draw nigh unto them, O people, and renounce those who idly dispute the verses that God hath revealed, and who have disbelieved in their Lord when he came invested with proof and testimony.
This is the tablet of the Visitation of Baha'u'llah, and I would request that you remain seated. Thank you. The praise which hath dawned from thy most august self, and the glory which has shone forth from thy most effulgent beauty, rest upon thee. O thou who art the manifestation of grandeur, and the King of eternity, and the Lord of all who are in heaven and on earth. I testify that through thee the sovereignty of God and his dominion, and the majesty of God and his grandeur were revealed, and the day stars of ancient splendor have shed their radiance in the heaven of thine irrevocable decree, and the beauty of the unseen hath shone forth above the horizon of creation. I testify, moreover, that with but a movement of thy pen, thine injunction, be thou, hath been enforced, and God's hidden secret hath been divulged, and all created things have been called into being, and all the revelations have been sent down. I bear witness, moreover, that through thy beauty, the beauty of the adored one hath been unveiled, and through thy face, the face of the desired one hath shone forth, and that through a word from thee thou hast decided between all created things, causing them who are devoted to thee to ascend unto the summit of glory, and the infidels to fall into the lowest abyss. I bear witness that he who hath known thee hath known God, and he who hath attained unto thy presence hath attained unto the presence of God. Great therefore is the blessedness of him who hath believed in thee and in thy signs, and hath humbled himself before thy sovereignty, and hath been honored with meeting thee, and hath attained thy good pleasure, the good pleasure of thy will, and circled around thee, and stood before thy throne. Woe betide him that hath transgressed against thee, and hath denied thee, and repudiated thy signs, and gainsaid thy sovereignty, and risen up against thee, and waxed proud before thy face, and hath disputed thy testimonies, and fled from thy rule and thy dominion, and been numbered with the infidels whose names have been inscribed by the fingers of thy behest upon thy holy tablets. Waft then unto me, O my God and my beloved, from the right hand of thy mercy and thy loving kindness, the holy breaths of thy favors, that they may draw me away from myself and from the world unto the courts of thy nearness and thy presence. Potent art thou to do what pleaseth thee. Thou truly hast been supreme over all things. The remembrance of God and his praise, and the glory of God and his splendor rest upon thee, O thou who art his beauty. I bear witness that the eye of creation hath never gazed upon one wronged like thee. Thou wast immersed all the days of thy life beneath an ocean of tribulations. At one time, thou wast in chains and fetters. At another, thou wast threatened by the sword of thine enemies. Yet, despite all this, thou didst enjoin upon all men to observe what had been prescribed unto thee by him who is the all-knowing, the all-wise. May my spirit be a sacrifice to the wrongs thou didst suffer, and my soul be a ransom for the adversities thou didst sustain. I beseech God, by thee and by them whose faces have been illumined with the splendors of the light of thy countenance, and who, for love of thee, have observed all whereunto they were bidden, to remove the veils that have come in between thee and thy creatures, and to supply me with the good of this world and the world to come. Thou art in truth the Almighty, the most exalted, the all-glorious, the ever-forgiving, the most compassionate. Bless thou, O Lord, my Lord, the divine lote tree and its leaves, and its boughs and its branches, and its stems and its offshoots, as long as thy most excellent titles will endure, and thy most august attributes will last. Protect it then from the mischief of the aggressor and the hosts of tyranny. Thou art in truth the Almighty, the most powerful. Bless thou also, O Lord my God, thy servants and thy handmaidens who have attained unto thee. Thou truly art the all-bountiful, whose grace is infinite. No God is there save thee, the ever-forgiving, the most generous.
When Baha'u'llah was still a child, his father arranged for one of his older brothers to marry. The festival lasted for 7 days and nights, and on the final day there was a puppet show. A large number of princesses, dignitaries, and nobles gathered from the capital of the occasion, and Baha'u'llah was sitting in one of the upper rooms of the building, watching. A tent was pitched in the courtyard, and from it soon some tiny human-like figures emerged, crying, "His Majesty is coming." Arrange the seats at once. Other figures came out, engaged in sweeping and sprinkling of water. And then the chief town crier bade the people assemble for the audience with the king. Baha'u'llah recounts that this was a grand puppet show about a famous king and the politics and warning of his kingdom. After the show had ended, he saw a man come out from behind the tent carrying a box under his arm. "What is in the box?" Baha'u'llah said. The man replied, "All the lavishing trappings, the king, the princesses, the ministers, their pomp and glory, their might and power. Everything you saw are all now contained within this box." Of this event, Baha'u'llah wrote, "Ever since that day, all the trappings of the world have seemed in the eyes of this youth, akin to that same spectacle. They have never been, nor will ever be, possessed with any weight, though it be to an extent of a grain of mustard seed. Erelong these outward trappings, these heaped up treasures, these earthly vanities and ascend battalions, these gorgeous fineries, these proud and overweening souls, all shall pass into the confineries and grave, as thou in that box. In the eyes of those possessed of insight, all this conflict, dissension, and vainglory hath been and will ever be like unto the sport of children.
First, we're going to sing the song. What are we going to sing? What should we sing first? Linty and Shay. We will certainly one. So first we're going to sing You Won't Light on Naked. Okay, we will light our lit candles across the universe. We will light up the whole wide world. Let their brilliance dispel all the shadows of the night. Let the world be aflame with light. We will roar like a lion and soar like an eagle and show all the people the way. We will each of us reach one and each of us teach one to follow God's plan for today. We will change hate to love and we know that war will cease. We will light up the world with peace. Let the fire of our love be the battle cry of war on the edge of a great new day. We will light up the whole wide world. Each one, each one, each one, teach one, each one, teach one, each one, teach one. We will light up the whole wide world. There's only one God throughout the universe, but man multiplied him and so there's a your God and my God, but mankind has to learn that there's only one God to know. There's only one race of men upon the earth, but man did divide it and so there's a black race, a white race, but mankind has to learn that there's only one race to know. The earth was one country when God gave it to man, but man did divide it and so there's a China, a Turkey, but mankind has to learn that the earth is one country to know. Religion is one as the prophets have all sung, but man won't believe it and so there's a just my religion, but mankind has to learn that there's only oneness to know. There's only oneness throughout the universe, but man did believe it and so he divides and multiplies it. Oh, won't he ever learn that there's only oneness to know? What a wonderful
narration by two groups of children's classes. So first we have Sophia, Rose, and Lily May. If you want, you can give me your mask.
The enemies of the faith in Akka were intent on making life as difficult as possible for Baha'u'llah.
They were often prevented from carrying out their evil plans, though.
A good example is the story of the governor of Akka. Let me tell you what happened. The enemies of the faith wanted to turn the heart of the governor against all Baha'is. They wanted to hurt Baha'u'llah and make life as difficult as possible for him.
What did they do this time?
They gave the governor some writings of Baha'u'llah. They were sure that he would hate the author of these writings and would start to banish him.
But whose heart could deny the majesty and beauty of the writings?
Exactly. Instead of hating Baha'u'llah, the governor started to have high respect for him. He often went to Al-Dubaha to ask for help in governing the city.
Akka was a foul city. It had no fresh drinking water, and it was told that if a bird flew over the city, it would drop dead because of the smell.
The governor went to Baha'u'llah and asked and begged him to do any act of service for him. But Baha'u'llah asked for nothing in return. He asked for something that would benefit every single person that lived in Akka. He asked for the aqueduct to be fixed, which had been broken for 30 years and was spreading diseases and was giving people death. As the governor obeyed and fixed the aqueduct, now in Akka there's fresh water and Baha'u'llah has saved people from death and disease.
Baha'u'llah restored life both spiritually and physically.
And that
That's
is
the story of the governor of Akka.
Live in a city where you're unfairly treated, where people threw sticks and stones at you from the side of the road, even though you had done nothing wrong. It would be horrible. Anyone would hate it. Yet this is what happened to Baha'u'llah and his followers. I would like you to tell you the story of Sheikh Mahmud. He was a very important man in Akka, but he was also a fanatical Muslim. When he heard Baha'u'llah had been banished to Akka, he was furious. He could not control himself. How could they send such a character to Akka? I'm going to the prison and tell him what I think of him. And that's what he did. She was met at the prison by two guards. They had been told not to let anyone see the prisoner. But Sheikh Mahmoud was an important man. How could they refuse? I demand to see Baha'u'llah.
No.
No!
We will not let you.
You will not let... I demand to see Baha'u'llah. No visitor is allowed to see the prisoner. I demand to see Baha'u'llah.
You're not. We'll go and check.
Okay. Wait here.
Wait here.
You can see your home, but first you must change your intention. Sheikh Mahmoud went back home, amazed. How had this man known? He had told no one. How could he know? I didn't tell anyone what I was going to do. So he decided to change his strategy. He went back to the prison, but this time he had his dagger under his cloak. He told no one about this. I demand to see Baha'u'llah. No visitors allowed to see the prison. I demand to see Baha'u'llah. We'll go and check.
You can only if you jump into a holiday.
Again, Sheikh Mahmoud went home, amazed. I didn't tell anyone that I hid a weapon in my cloak. I'm sure no one saw me dressing. There's something mysterious and powerful about him. Again, Sheikh Mahmoud went back to the prison, but this time he was a changed man. From proud and arrogance, he had gone to humble and low. Please, can I see Baha'u'llah?
Yes. I will check.
You may see Baha'u'llah. Oh, Baha'u'llah. Sorry what I'm going to do to you. Please accept me as one of your followers.
The program it only gets better and better, doesn't it? With all these wonderful surprises and profound stories. Lena, over to you for the poem.
The writings told of a manifestation who would rise to his great station, like a sun lifting into the sky. With joy the children would cry. For near and yonder many things were told, by young and by old. That day was the King of days, for all the sun's rays were shining upon that spot, that we must forget not. For this was the day of a birth, now celebrated around the earth, the day we said Allah apart to the great manifestation Baha'u'llah. World-embracing vision was the reason for his mission. Peace, love, and unity for the world's immunity. Equality of men and women were of teachings we were given. Universal education for everyone in every nation. And there is so much more, so come in through the door and listen to our story of great, great glory.
La religion, c'est la cause de l'unité de peuple. Oh, c'est ça. C'est la cause de l'unité de peuple. Oh, c'est ça. C'est la cause de l'unité de peuple. Oh, peuple juif, peuple choisi, Dieu vous envoya Moïse pour vous conduire et vous recommande de les suivre et l'écouter. Je susciterai d'entre vous les Juifs. Shalom, notre prophète est comme Moïse. Shalom, dans une bergerie de Nazareth naquit un enfant, c'est lui qui sauvera le monde. C'est bien Jésus et il lavera aussi le monde de tout péché. Quand viendra le consolateur, Alléluia, il vous conduira dans la vérité. Alléluia, vous êtes résignés à la volonté de Dieu. Mahomet, c'est le beau cadeau de Dieu au monde arabe. Partout et pour tout, référez-vous au Coran. Quand viendra le 12e imam, salam alek, annonçant l'avenir d'Ikaïm. Salam alek, oh soleil de vérité, Baha'u'llah, la paix promise par le Seigneur, c'est dans tes mains, venez au peuple du monde, goûtez ses fruits. La terre n'est qu'un seul pays, Allah Waba, et tous les hommes sont les citoyens. Allah Waba aux Juifs, chrétiens, aux musulmans, nous tous dans la foi Baha'i. Aux Juifs, chrétiens, aux musulmans, nous tous dans la foi Baha'i. C'est la volonté divine. Shalom, c'est la volonté divine. Alléluia, c'est la volonté divine. Salam alek, c'est la volonté divine. Allah Waba, c'est la volonté divine.
Okay, you can sing another one. No? You have one more?
Oh, yes, one more. Yeah.
Sango liye liye, sango
liye,
sango liye liye,
sango liye, sango ya le babe, sango ya Baha'u'llah, biso Baha'i mama
sango liye liye,
sango liye,
sango liye liye,
sango liye, sango ya le babe, sango ya Baha'u'llah, biso Baha'i mama
Mbongwana ya mokili ekoki kosalema se na misala. Mbongwana ya mokili ekoki kosalema se na misala.
ya peto, ya peto, ya peto, pe ya malamu. Ekoki kosalema pe na ezaleli ya kitoko. Ekoki kosalema pe na ezaleli ya kitoko. Kitoko, 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 pe elongo ba
bandeko. Bino bandeko, bino bandeko, bino bandeko. Tika ete, misala limonisa. Ezale linda bino kasi malobate. Sango liye liye. Sango liye. Sango liye liye. Sango liye liye.
Wow, what excitement, what joy. Thank you so much for that gift. So I think to end the program, to thank all the readers for reading so beautifully and for saying the prayers, for thank you for the tablet of visitation, which took us right into the Holy Land, in the shrine of Baha'u'llah. Thank you to all the beautiful presentations by the children, a lot of hard work that went into it. Brought lots of excitement, but also lots of deep, deep messages. Thank you so much to the children and to their teachers for the beautiful poetry inspired by Baha'u'llah, and also for the beautiful music and the sounds of Africa, which is just so beautiful. So again, from the local spiritual assembly, to thank everybody for attending. We are, I think, on the 28th of November, we'll be having a 100th year anniversary celebration of the passing of the Master. So I'm sure the spirit will continue to infuse Cape Town and the rest of the world. We will have a closing prayer now that is going to be read by Shanil. And again, on behalf of the Spiritual Assembly, to thank everybody for attending, and especially to Faye Eshrahi, who organized this tirelessly for 2 days. We don't know how she did it, but she did it. Faye? There's a request for one more song. Wow. Mike, over to you. Mike and Admire. Welcome.
as the wind, be unrestrained as the wind, from carrying the message
message of him. Oh, the unrestrained as the wind.
As the wind, as the wind.
When carrying the message of him who caused the dawn of divine guidance to break. Caused the dawn of divine guidance to break.
Lauded be thy name, O my God. I am so carried away by the breezes blowing from thy presence that I have forgotten myself and all that I possess. This is but a sign of the wonders of thy grace and bountiful favors vouchsafed unto me. I give praise to thee, O my God, that thou hast chosen me out of all thy creatures and made me to be the dayspring of thy strength and the manifestation of thy might, and empowered me to reveal such of thy signs and such tokens of thy majesty and power as none, whether in thy earth or whether in thy heaven or on thy earth, can produce. I beseech thee, O my Lord, by thy most effulgent name, to acquaint my people with the things thou didst destine for them. Do thou then preserve them within the stronghold of thy guardianship and the tabernacle of thine unerring protection, lest through them may appear what will divide thy servants. Assemble them, O my Lord, on the shores of this ocean, every drop of which proclaimeth thee to be God, besides whom there is none other God, the all-glorious, the all-wise. Uncover before them, O my Lord, the majesty of thy cause, lest they be led to doubt thy sovereignty and the power of thy might. I swear by thy glory, O thou art the beloved of the worlds. Had they been aware of thy power, they would of a certainty have refused to utter what thou didst not ordain for them in the heaven of thy will. Inspire them, O my Lord, with a sense of their own powerlessness before him who is the manifestation of thyself, and teach them to recognize the poverty of their own nature in the face of the manifold tokens of thy self-sufficiency and riches, that they may gather together round thy cause and cling to the hem of thy mercy, and cleave to the cord of the good pleasure of thy will. Thou art the Lord of the worlds, and of all those who show mercy. Thou art the most merciful.
Thank you so much. Please do enjoy some refreshments. Again, our guests, very welcome. Please join us. Thank you for joining us.